everybody, I'm Amy, this is my wife Maggie,
Hello.
and together we are ThinkerThemer, and we are back in our studio after a very long amount of time in the US,
Yes.
which culminated in visiting GenCon 2023. GenCon, and we didn't expect to go this year, but I'm
it was
so
a surprise, yeah.
I'm so happy we did. It's something that I want to try and get to every year.
Yeah, I agree. It's like last year we're like, oh, this is probably the last one for a bit, but every time we go, it's just so much fun. There's so much to do, and yet you know that you're only going to get probably 10% of everything there's to do done, and still, like, every moment is so precious.
And there's always people that you want to see, and you know that they've been in the same places, but you never seem to overlap, so you have to make a real effort to meet people when you want to see them.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on. It's sensory overload, and one of my favorite elements of GenCon, which is not for everybody. There are cons where you play more. GenCon is not one of them.
Yeah.
But GenCon, there is shopping.
It's mostly shopping and demos and the exhibit hall. That's the biggest sort of part. There are obviously tables where people, can play games, but I think also we don't tend to spend that much time there.
No.
Because we also had Level Up earlier in the, few weeks before that, and that was all playing games, which was really lovely. But this was all about...
It's all about the shopping. Yeah. And we made of course, our most anticipated games for GenCon. Some of those games ended up not being available to buy at GenCon. But what was cool... Well, that was less cool. But what was cool is that a lot of people had watched that list. There were so many people when we were walking around. It's like, thank you for the list. Like, I went and bought those games and we're like, oh, sorry if that, cost you a lot of money like it did us. But also, there were a couple of games. There was Race to the Raft and there was Fit to Print. And those were the two games where we're like, whatever you do, like, try and grab those games. They didn't make it to GenCon. Yeah. So everyone was like, where are these games? So I'm so sorry about that.
We need to have more disclaimers next year when we do the list.
Yes,
the
but
anticipated list.
There were some games, though, that we thought would be in demo that were available for sale. So that was really exciting. And so what we're going to do today, as we did last year, is take you through the unpacking of our games. So when we pack our games in our suitcase, we try to punch everything to get rid of the cardboard weight. Sometimes we get rid of the inserts, or we've at least flattened the cardboard inserts, and then we put games within games. But this year it was a lot more difficult.
Yeah, it was actually quite challenging because I think partly a lot of publishers have gotten a lot better at not wasting space, or not just like selling you air for the sake of like marking up the price on the box. Having said that, like I can only speak for, most, if not like the majority of the ones here. There's probably still going to be some,
there are some offenders of that. But in this case, it was good for us because we needed to pack games within games to fit them in our suitcase.
Well, no, it wasn't as good in the sense of like I didn't have as much space to like play with because it was like everything was sort of tightly packed. So it's like, oh.
No, I'm saying the offenders were like helpful.
Oh, yeah. The ones that were. Yeah.
In this case, when you're trying to pack them on your shelf, it is not helpful to have air in a box.
No, it's not.
But
the other thing was like we had a lot more larger boxes this year, which last year I think we had a better distribution of big box and small box. Mm-hmm. This year we went big box heavy.
We did. Yeah, fewer small games. Anyway, so there are fewer games that are hidden within these boxes, we think, because we can barely remember what happened in that time zone all that time ago.
Yeah.
Still waking up at 4 a.m, by the way, but hopefully get back on usual hours. So let's get into it.
Go through them.
Yeah, I want to talk about, first of all, what we did the day the expo hall opened. So Thursday is the first day of the expo hall. It opens at 10 a.m. This year was the biggest GenCon that has been in ever, I think. And so you can imagine what the hall was like, putting aside the craziness that was Disney Lorcana and people lining up for that even overnight in the later days of the con. But it was jam-packed, and we were there with our map ready to go. As usual, I had tasked Maggie with what to go and grab, so we split up at 10 a.m.
What booths to go to and what items to get.
Yeah, and that was one expensive morning. But the first thing that I went to grab was Tiger and Dragon. And the reason why I went there first to the Oink booth is because I'd heard that they only had a small number of Tiger and Dragon, and in fact they did sell out in the first day, but then they managed to get more stock, so they were restocking, and even on the last day they had copies, but I was really happy to pick this up. So this is where I went first to make sure I could get this copy. Tiger and Dragon is a card shedding game that is, in this case, played out with mahjong tiles. So it's like, it looks really chunky and cool on the table. Haven't played it yet.
It's quite heavy. The box is quite heavy as soon as I picked it up, because I had the like luggage weight anxiety, going, oh no, this one's heavy. It's like, oh no, this one's also heavy. And for a little one, it kind of packs a
because it has all those beautiful tiles in it. But a few people went past and said that they grabbed this because it was on our list, and then they said they had played it as well and they really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. That is Tiger and Dragon.
Okay, there's nothing inside that one.
Probably it's pretty, no, I don't think there's anything in that one. Packed. Yeah, but I do want to talk about another place that I went when I was not with Maggie. And
I see some lift. I see some box lift, which is probably a sign that there's other goodies inside. Yeah, and so I went to actually pick up, maybe I could, I don't know if we can grab it. Let's try and grab it. This game here. Bruxelles 1893. So this is a remake with slight rule changes, I believe, and a bit of a reskin and an upgrade with an expansion of the original Brussels game. And this is like a classic Euro that we've never played. That apparently is excellent. So I'm actually really, really keen to get it to the table.
Me too. Yeah. And it's a beautiful box with this gold trim. Yeah. So after I had picked up Tiger and Dragon, I went to get one other game, which I'll talk about in a moment, but then I went straight to get this because Rado had put this on my radar because he was talking about it. Then I looked it up and saw that they actually only had a few copies coming in. Yeah. And so I thought I better go and grab this. It was one of the more expensive games to pick up and purchase. But, because it's got everyone talks about it as a great Euro, I'm very excited. It's very up our alley.
Even when we were there, people were like, oh, such an excellent game. Yeah. And so I was like really excited.
But I also wanted to talk about this because unbeknownst to Maggie, while I was lined up getting this game, I was also picking up other games from the same booth. So this is from Flat River Games, and they have obviously they're a distributor, but they're also I think they've kind of the Flat River Group have now purchased a lot of other game
like
publishers.
Other publishers, and there's been a lot of mergers.
A lot of mergers, so it's getting very confusing.
Acquisitions and things.
But
it's its own board game, really. The whole how publishers are, changing and shifting.
Yeah, but because they had their own booth with all of these different games and different publishers, what I really noticed when I was lining up trying to purchase that one is that everybody had a copy of this in their hands. So this was really popular amongst people who were there on the Thursday morning and wanted to grab it, and everyone seemed excited, was grabbing a copy. Ancient Knowledge. Now, I actually said to the gentleman that was in front of me, I was like, why is everyone purchasing this game? And he said, well, I can only speak to why I'm purchasing it, but it wasn't meant to be here, and they weren't sure they were going to get it prior to Essenspiel. But actually, this game is a Civ builder that is card-based, and I vaguely had heard about it, but it wasn't really on my radar for GenCon. And I was like, well, I guess if everyone's buying it, I should buy a copy.
You got the FOMO real bad there on the I
really did. I really did. So I was like, oh, Maggie's not going to be happy. But I'm just now I'm just buying things that other people are buying. I got caught up. Yeah. So apparently it's really good. Again, haven't played it.
Find out.
But this was one of the worst offenders for dead space in the box. This is essentially what could have been almost a card game. There are lots of cards in here.
Interesting.
And because of that, there's other stuff packed in here. I can't remember what it is, but it's very heavy.
Ooh.
Yes. So.
All right. So I'll move this out of the way.
In here. This was a game that I purchased because we love the game Bonanza.
Yes.
And this kind of went under the radar.
Dahlias.
Dahlias. We didn't mention it in our most anticipated games because I found out about it afterwards. But this, weirdly, is a Beth Sobel illustrated reskin of Bonanza.
Yeah.
Random.
So now it's flowers. So now what you're trading is not beans, it's flowers. So it'd be interesting to... I think it's probably a little bit more approachable if you want to play it, you know, with like some of the family members that wouldn't be into the whole bean thing. But it's so funny.
Who's not into the bean thing?
The bean thing is so funny.
The bean thing is ridiculous.
The artwork of Bonanza is just like ugly fun. Like it's just so like it's sort of intentional.
It is cringely ugly.
But like I think intentionally so.
Yeah.
So that adds to it. So it'll be interesting to kind of play it with this now beautiful reskin.
And interestingly, it says on the back the Heirloom series features the classic Bonanza game with beautiful botanical art. So there might be more in the series. I don't know. I was just so intrigued by it. We love Bonanza, so how could I not purchase that? That is Dahlias.
We'll put this one over here, maybe.
And another one that we have in here is a little game called Scram. And this is by Ted Allspatch, so the the publisher Bezier Games, but also he's a designer of many well-loved games, including Carbo and Silver and Gold, the games that this one is kind of an evolution of. And I haven't played any of those games, but I know Carbo is loved and one of those games that features a lot of memory. This has a little bit of memory in it as well. Actually quite a complex little card game for something that is seemingly very cute.
I'd say it's like, it was deceptively crunchy or not tricky, you know, because it's sort of like a team-based game where you're trying to, the whole theme is you're camping and you're trying to help your teammate, or you're trying to sort of scare off animals from your campsite. But the way that we've managed to play one game of it, and we played a 3-player, which we then played it with
Ted, which was very cool.
Yes, so that was fun. Where it's then a kind of 2 versus 1, so you're kind of trying to move your animals onto that other person's campsite.
Yeah, because you're building out like a tableau of cards in front of you that feature all of the animals. The idea is some of them are face up, some of them are face down. You're trying to shed them as much as possible because at the end of the game, your score is going to be the sum of the numbers on those animals. But of course, they also have a lot of powers as well that allow you to kind of manipulate
so
the
that was
game.
an interesting one.
Yeah, so I'm interested to play this more. It is it's very interesting that it plays 2v2 or 3v3 or 2v1. So it's a very interesting combination of player counts.
So
that's looking forward to checking that out. And the other little game that's tucked away in here is Bemused, which is really interesting and only plays 4 to 6 players.
A tricky player count.
It's a tricky player count. But the reason why we have this one is because we adore the designer of Cosmic Frog, Jenna Felly, who is just a wonderful person. And so we have all of her games, actually, every single one of them. And we actually picked up another one, which I will talk about.
Is this an expansion?
Yeah, so this one is the expansion to Cosmic Frog called Find Muck. You can see it is signed not only by Jenna, but also by the illustrator of Cosmic Frog, who was there, the artist who I had a great chat to, who did all of the wonderful psychedelic frogs that are featured in the game. So they're so cool. But this is the expansion for Cosmic Frog that brings in tokens instead of the dice system. It adds a wild type of terrain. I'm a big fan of Cosmic Frog. It's a game that we haven't played that much, but I want to play it more. And I pre-ordered this one so that I made sure it didn't sell out. I don't know how quickly it sold out, but I just wanted to make sure that we had it. So, that is a couple of more games. I don't even know where to go next. How about Sunrise Lane?
All right. Yeah, so Sunrise Lane
is another one that I impulse purchased.
I don't know anything about this one.
So while I was in line at Flat River Group, I spent so much money at that booth, but I was just like, it's because I was waiting in line and I was looking at things and everyone was grabbing stuff, so I just got kind of
swept up in the fever of the moment.
But I actually really enjoy games by Horrible Guild. I just think they're quirky, they've often got like cool components, and so I just clocked this one, which I hadn't heard of before, called Sunrise Lane, and noticed that it's a Knizia game. And so I was like, well, it's a cute theme. It's a great designer.
Knizia, it doesn't matter if it's a hit or a miss. Like, there's always something really interesting in them. It's a very prolific designer. I always find something like, even if it's not a game that ends up being for me, there's always something just like, that was interesting. It's like, it's like hearing someone say a good point, going, oh, that's cool. That's cool.
This box got a little bit damaged in
It
transit,
did,
unfortunately.
yeah.
But you can see that it's kind of like a puzzle-like board, and then it has buildings on it. That's like just a theme that Maggie and I always really enjoy. So I decided to pick this up. I'm not sure.
A board with a puzzle on it.
No. Excuse me. No.
Best theme is a board with puzzle on it.
No, it's the house component. Like we like these like residential streets and buildings. Like that is there are things in here.
There's goodies.
One of my most anticipated games was Inheritors to grab at GenCon, because I actually managed to play this game after our anticipated list at Level Up Con. Maggie is yet to play it. I'm excited to share it with her. It is really interesting because it's so much game in a little box. There are public objectives. There are hidden objectives.
Yeah, it looks like it spreads out quite a bit, like on the table,
Yeah, there's like there's like player asymmetry that occurs at some point in the game. And then you're also just trying to create these stacks or runs of numbers in front of you. And what's cool is you're working up in those numbers, and the highest card at the top of each of those stacks is going to be summed together to be your points at the end of the game. So I really enjoyed my time with Inheritors so far, and I'm looking forward to teaching Maggie. So that is a little card game that we picked up. And this one...
Diamonds! Yeah.
Diamonds. Backstory is that we met Mike Fitzgerald 2 years ago at Dice Tower West.
Yeah.
And he has designed many games.
So many games. Yeah. Very prolific as well.
Yes, and he is absolutely lovely as a person. Yeah, and so recently we did our top 10 trick-taking games, and this is one that we just have never played.
Yeah, it just hadn't, for whatever reason, it just hadn't crossed our table.
Yeah, and so we always spy it, and I'm always like trying to pick it up, and
it's a
I just
classic.
never do. Yeah, and it's meant to be a classic, and people are like, oh, it's such a great game, so why haven't we played it? I'm going to see if I put anything else in here, but this is a trick-taking game, and that's about as much of it as I know. Yeah,
I think it's... from what I know of it, like there's actual physical gems in it, which was, I think, part of the delight of it, of going, ooh, it's not just a trick taking with the cards, you're also getting to kind of win, and I believe even trade sort of gems along the way. So yeah, we'll check it out, and then we might have to potentially revisit our top 10 in a subsequent year.
I'm excited, but I'm excited to finally buy that one.
Yeah,
that was one where
Diamonds.
It's just been on the list for a long time.
Yeah.
Why don't we go into your pile?
Okay, should we start with the front? With the little ones?
Wherever.
So, Seas of Strife. This was another one that we got to play. We actually talked about it when we went to Lido Games. So we actually got to play with Brooke and some of the team there. It was another trick-taking game. Beth Sobel art as well.
Yeah, and so we were introduced to it when we went to Minneapolis and we went to Lido Games, and they had a copy in their office. But then I noticed that it was like kind of everywhere. So if you're looking for this game, it seems as though it has like great retail distribution. But Seas of Strife is a trick-taking game where you are trying to take no tricks. But what's really interesting is each of the suits have different numbers on them, and they are ascending. So it goes everywhere from, I think, 0 to 74 or something is the highest card. But what's interesting about this is the twist on this game is when you are playing off suit, if multiple play, because it's must follow, but if multiple people play off suit and it becomes the majority suit or even or more of the suits on the table, it becomes the trump suit. And so that's just really interesting, because if you think of what you're trying to do when you're playing off suit, you're trying to shed your highest cards because you don't want to win tricks.
I'm good. I get to play off suit.
I'm just going to get rid of this 65. And then the next person can really mess with you, is the nice way of saying it, by playing the same offsuit card if they can't follow, and then potentially shifting the dynamic such that you end up winning the trick. Even when you couldn't follow. So it's really simple. And what I really like about this game is it became a game that I was carrying around the con, and one that's just really easy to teach and get to the table really quickly. When I was stuck in travel hell with my colleagues, it was a game we played a lot of in the airports. So yeah, it's just like a really easy one and quite fun.
Very travel friendly. Yeah.
So I really liked Seas of Strife.
Oh, speaking of travel, sail. Now we have another trick taking. How do we manage to still get a whole bunch of trick taking games? Even after we played a gazillion. So sail. This is another trick taking game. It's a co-op 2-player trick taking game where you're actually kind of setting up your crewmates on a piratey type ship, and you're trying to sail your ship all the way through to
avoiding the Kraken
destination, avoiding the Kraken, and along the way the Kraken's going to be, dealing damage to your ship. Really interesting. We kind of had a game of the intro scenario, and we're like, this is hard.
Yeah,
this is actually really hard.
And we're like, we need more time to work out the strategy.
I was actually really intrigued by the fact that they were able to use trick taking, and then with the suits, there's essentially these icons that then mean either you get to move the ship, or you get to deal damage to the Kraken, or the Kraken attacks you, and how you actually created potentially fairly thematic experience. I'm saying potentially because we've only really played a little bit of it with a trick-taking sort of core mechanic. So really interested to check this one out more.
Yeah, so a lot of people were looking for this at the con. I was as well. It was one of my first destinations, first booths to go and buy this game. It wasn't available, and I heard mixed messages about whether it actually arrived at the con or whether they sold out. I'm still not sure about that. But basically, at the end of the con, we begged them to give us the demo copy. So this was the demo copy that they were using on all of the tables when they were teaching this game, and they very kindly gave it to us to try out. But it's seen better days because it was the demo copy. The cards are pretty well worn.
The cards are like, obviously, that's 4 days of just non-stop playing.
But really excited because it's also a reskin and redevelopment of, I think the game is called Hamlin's Cave, which is a Japanese game. So it's a reskin. I love the artwork. It's really cool.
And in general, that's a good tip. So if there's ever things, like if you're ever on a con, the final day is usually a good day to leave a lot of your shopping. Obviously, if there's not stuff that you think is going to completely sell out.
I think that's bad advice.
Well, no, because you're really worried about things selling out. Usually by the end of it, the people who are there exhibiting, they're like, I don't want to take, this home. So many sales and so many
they do discount,
have discounted or take this one as well, or so that's a really, really great time to do a final kind of few laps.
Definitely for maybe extra games. I would say that if you are trying to get the games that are on your list, unfortunately at GenCon, because it was the biggest GenCon they've had, lots of games sold out every day, and lots of games were even sold out by the time the weekend came around. Anyway, that is sale. Glad we picked up a copy of that. What else have we got? Oh, well, I'll talk about Cosmoctopus because we, of course, this time we had a few meetings with publishers to learn about upcoming games. We also had a couple of media events, and one of them was the launch of Cosmoctopus Party, which was so much fun. Not only because we, of course, got to see a lot of other content creators and meet people we hadn't met before, but also because they had really thought about the
very
theme
thematic party
of this, this party. They even had, so the octopus in this game is called the Great Inky One, and they had a soda, a grape soda that was called the Grape Inky One, that they had purposely made for this party.
With its own label and everything, it's sort of like the Cosmoctopus sort of label, and it's very cool.
And they also had a trivia game that was hosted by Lucky Duck Games that was, everyone involved yelling out the answers to these questions. And what was really funny is the designer of this game is Henry Orderman, who is a lovely person, but also the designer of Parks, most famously, probably. And so a lot of the questions were about him and your knowledge of him.
Trivia about him or about the background to the design and things like that.
And what was the question that you knew?
Around, what do you call octopus facts. Well, my question, I was like, I wonder if there'll be one that I know, what's Henry's pet? And I'm like, I know this. He has a guinea pig.
He has a guinea pig. And no one else knew this in the room, really.
How did you know that? It's from talking and sharing. And so I got to win a little plushie. Yeah. How good is that?
Look at this. They had a special plushie made of the Cosmoctopus. I love the
tentacles. I love how well it kind of sits. The tentacles are so, it's like a...
It's super cute.
Yeah, very stable. I like it. And it's so soft and it's so cute. So exciting.
But Maggie did a very good job of winning the Cosmoctopus. And we were lucky because we happened to be at Level Up Con with Henry, and so we had a chance to play some games together, and we were talking about
all these
pets.
behind the scenes facts.
So we learned about the guinea pig, which was very helpful. And then
You've played the game though. I haven't played the game, which I'm very excited to play because I love like the aesthetic of it, like the actual octopus and the little tentacles look really cool. Apparently the actual gameplay is really solid. So
so this was provided to us as a review copy. Everyone got one at this event, and so I'm excited to teach Maggie because I actually played it at Dice Tower West. And with Nick Murphy.
Oh
but I didn't get a chance to
apparently
play
was
with Maggie.
convinced that you were like targeting him.
Yeah, no, he was taking it very personally.
We love Nick.
This game is one that I've just discovered in here, which is a little game by Nathan Thornton, who was the designer of a popular party game called Green Team Wins. And so this is his next party game called Everything Ever. And it's kind of like a category style trivia kind of game where you're trying to think of things that belong to different categories. But I believe the way it works is that you have 2 piles or 2 cards showing at any one time where you're trying to name something from
it's like either
from each of them.
Something from each or something that connects them or something like that.
Yeah, if you can think of a clue that connects the 2 categories, I don't know, it's better in some way. But also if you can't think of anything, I think you collect cards and then it's the person you don't want to collect cards essentially. I'm interested to check it out. Don't know much more about it, but that is everything.
We're usually terrible at trivia, so it'll be interesting to see if we're any better at this.
But I do love categories. I know it's like an old traditional game, but I loved that as a kid.
Well, there you go.
Loved it. So
we'll have to have a look. And see.
What else have we got? Nimalia. I managed to get the last copy of Nimalia, which I was super happy about. This is again from Lucky Duck Games. It is a game that I recently talked about on our top travel games, which was with Monique and Naveen over at Before You Play. And because you can see that this is a tiny, tiny little box. And this game has that same kind of cartographer's scoring system where you're going for objectives that change each round, but you come back to those objectives later. And in this game, you are passing around a hand of cards and you're drafting tiles that are going to go down in front of you in one of those overlapping kind of puzzles.
Melding style.
And there's different terrain types and different animals that are on those terrains, and it will be like don't have any giraffes is the scoring condition, or
like only have 1 penguin per column or something like that.
Exactly. I was enamored by this game when I first tried it, and I just think it's a great one to carry on you. It does play up to 4 players, and it's really easy to teach, and it's
pretty crunchy. It's pretty crunchy. It's very beautiful.
It's really hard to do everything well.
Yeah, it's one of those that you have to kind of be smart about the strategy that you pick and timing this scoring, because every round obviously scoring different conditions and then coming back around.
So that is Nimalia. All right. This one, Forest Shuffle, is a game that I purchased, I think it was on the last day, and it was actually Ilya and Tyler from Kovray who were talking about this game. It hadn't really been on our radar at all for the con, and then a few people had mentioned it, including them, and they were talking about the multi-use cards of it, and that was enough. I mean, I don't need much encouragement.
Again, you got hit with the FOMO of going, this is really, it's really good. It's really, is it? Okay, is it? I must get it.
I must check it out. Yeah. But also it's really cute.
Yeah, I like that all of the entire packaging of this was very sustainable. So it didn't have shrink wrap. It actually just had like a sticker, and even that sticker wasn't like a plastic sticker. It's almost like a paper-based sort of sticker. And then inside, there's another little game. But
the cards are wrapped in paper.
Yeah, so the card sets are all in paper. So it's an incredibly sustainable production. I think there's also something about like they're offsetting a lot of the production stuff somewhere.
Yes, they definitely say that on here.
Responsible paper. So like there's a lot of sustainability efforts went into this, which is amazing,
especially given the theme.
Exactly, it's a nature sort of theme. So interesting. It looks really beautiful. Forest Shuffle. don't know much else
Also,
about
just
it.
love multi-use cards. So as soon as they
Multi-use
said
cards
that,
are
I
a
was
selling
like,
point, for me as well.
I want to check that out.
That's that one.
And then enclosed within is this a really cool game that we got an opportunity to play, or I did.
Yeah,
just
I didn't
once,
get to play it,
which is
What was I doing? I think I must have been getting something. I don't know.
I don't know what you were doing.
Who knows?
There's lots going on. But this is a game that's based on Rummy. It's a really simple game. Essentially, you are just trying to draft cards from a market and then play them down in a way that creates like sets and runs that are aligned with objective cards so that you can get those objective cards and collect points to the end of the game.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, there's also some majority scoring. So if you had the most of one suit and all of that kind of thing. I love games like this because they're easy to teach and they're really good for me especially. I like games to take to work and just easy games that everyone understands what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cute. I really like the artwork.
It's gotta be like the simplest design on a card that I've ever seen. Like it's actually, they're very streamlined. Yeah, very minimalist. It's really just like a number and an icon, and that's it. So yeah, intrigued to check it out. Romi Rami.
Yeah.
What else should we do?
What else? Sagrada? There's a funny story.
I did not realize the size of this box.
Oh,
I was like,
it's heavy.
We had all these grand plans of like, Sagrada Artisans, the sort of campaign one. Excellent. We'll play it at the airport. It'll be the one that we kind of make our way through.
At the end of GenCon when we're feeling tired,
I'm
we'll
like,
just
there's no
relax.
way I'm putting that in my carry-on. Like, that's getting checked. That's getting, not only is it getting checked, that's going in the base of the entire luggage. It's massive.
It is massive. And that's because it is a campaign-style game where there are, like, boxes that you unlock. So there's actually a lot in here. We couldn't even fit any other games in here. But backstory to this is that actually the team at Floodgate Games sent us an early review copy, which of course, as you imagine, there's not many of those that go out. And they sent it all the way to Australia, and unfortunately it got lost. And that is not unusual with things getting sent to Australia, unfortunately. And so it never turned up, which we were sad about because we were very excited to play this. So they did give us this copy at GenCon, which we're very happy about. Sagrada is not a game that we play that often. It never really stuck with us. But the idea of it turning into a like colouring in.
Yes, because it's like a kind of roll and write or kind of where you're essentially, it's like your own colouring book campaign. So I'm sort of really looking forward to the beauty that could arise, but also the mindfulness and the kind of relaxing nature that it promises.
Interested to see where it goes, and
there
just
you go.
excited about something that's relaxing.
Things get lost in the mail. I wonder if it's like the kangaroos that we use to take everything around. They're like, this looks really fun. I'm just going to play. So there's probably some kangaroos playing with our copy of Sagrada somewhere.
Probably. I don't know where all of the lost mail will go.
Where does it go?
It must end up somewhere.
Where does it go?
Anyway, this
another one that was highly anticipated.
That is another campaign style game. This is a tile laying game, though. This
Follow
game
up to My City.
This game was one that we weren't sure was actually going to be available at GenCon. It was, but I think for about 10 minutes.
It sold out in the first 7 minutes of the exhibit hall opening up.
Yes. So that was unfortunate, especially for people who were trying to get it in the later days. I believe it is going to be like an Essenspiel bigger release. So we were very excited to get a copy because we played My City. We haven't finished My City.
We're literally like, I think, one game away. I think it was one of those like, we can do it. And we're playing with her sister. And so it was one of those like, it's too late. I'll have to go. We'll just finish that up. And I think that we've put it up and it just hasn't happened.
Just need to finish it. Or maybe we'll start a new one, My Island.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm excited to get stuck into these lighter campaign games. I'm just going to finish off my pile here because this is one I'm very excited about. You can see who does the majority of the shopping here. I pre-ordered Federation, the deluxe edition, from Eagle Griffin Games, who didn't have a booth there, but they, were distributing through Meeple Source. But Federation is a very well-reviewed Euro-style game that is, set in space, which is why I didn't back it initially. But then it's been getting great reviews. I know that Rado, again, loves this game. And I have always wanted to play it, but it didn't get great distribution in Australia.
I haven't seen it anywhere.
I think that beyond Europe, it wasn't very widely available.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that they had a pre-order available, this probably was the most expensive game. I think it was $90 but it is the deluxe edition. And I'm just really excited to finally get it to the table. So
is there anything else inside, or
I don't think there is, because it was so jam-packed and I punched everything.
That is quite tightly packed.
Yeah, it's jam-packed.
That's got cool little little boxes for storage and stuff, so that's cool.
If you pre-order it,
I've run out of space here. You're gonna have to put some on your side.
If you pre-order a game, does it count towards like the amount that you spent?
It absolutely does.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate.
All right, maybe I should work my way through this pile. All right, so for Humours, this one was one that it was kind of like on your radar.
It has been on my radar since it was on Kickstarter. I think the reason I didn't back it is because of the postage to Australia.
Yeah.
But as soon as we got to Level Up Games, it was on the library, and I was like, as soon as I have a moment, I'm sitting down, reading from the rulebook, learning this game, and so we're going to play it. We started playing. It's by Adam's Apple, so it's the same publisher company that did Planet Unknown, which we loved, and it's just such a cool production. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's have a look. This game just delighted me to no end. Did. Even though it's actually quite a little kind of like abstract-y sort of an area control style.
Yeah, it's like area control, which I don't usually connect with
at all. And
secret
beating,
which I don't really connect with at all. And yet, it's like the thing that sort of won me over is that you have this, you have these like little potion tokens, and only you know what they are. And then you have all these different, they call them scenes, which are kind of little
snippets of things that are happening around the city.
Yeah, you have all these different characters, and you're trying to use your potions to influence the mood of those characters. So the characters usually will have two options with the type of mood that you can or the type of potion that you can play on them. So some of them might be like the heart, which is like, they're more of the romantic. Some of them might be like a sword, so like, which is like, they're more aggressive or tend to like the soldiers and things like that. And so you're playing them face down, but people don't necessarily know which one you're playing down. And that becomes its own little, it's not even majority. It's like there's a hierarchy of which symbols win. So it's one of those, like, I think it was like the sword. Like if the sword is there by itself, it automatically wins. If there's multiple swords, the swords are out, and then it goes to the next tier of like the hearts. So if there's two hearts, then they win. But if there was only one, or there were three, and then you kind of work your way down, and then that's what determines your placement onto the main board for like the area majority. That sounds super abstract, and why would Maggie even care about this? The thing that just completely delighted me and won me over is those scenes, and they have all these different characters, the icons of what are the types of potions that would kind of motivate them made perfect thematic sense to me. I was like, oh, of course, and I was so delighted when a new scene would come on, because I would be seeing what story is this telling? There was no real purpose to that. There's no gameplay advantage to that. But it just gave me this whole other dimension. And so I just really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. Very clever as well.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet the designer, which I was delighted by. And
you didn't
get to meet, it's Charlie, isn't it? Yeah. Charlie. He has, like, his sense of humor permeates through the game. But what was interesting is he said that he's also a composer of music, and that there's a lot of music pieces of his own work that are featured in the game as well. Just in the background, there's sometimes musical notes and stuff. He's like, that's actual music, and it's my music. And I just thought that was really cool. So For Humours is just a delightful, quirky kind of game that... Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more. What else have we got? So, Retrograde, we had the opportunity to meet Mary Flanagan.
Oh, yeah, from Resonant Games.
Yeah, is the designer and the head of Resonant Games. Yeah. And we have adored their work for a while. Yeah. Retrograde is a roll and write that's based on that, like, Space Invaders.
That arcade kind of Space Invaders theme. And it's one of those, it's like a real time, you're rolling your dice and you're trying to then get to the point where you have the right combination with the dice are representing different types of, I think, like little monsters or spaceships that you're going to be attacking. And then there's going to be a few cards with almost like, not really objects, like the cards that are kind of like the target cards. So you're only going to be able to hit or cross out the ships that are for the card that you end up picking up, so say for example if it was yellow, for every pair of yellow dice that I have, I'm going to be able to cross out one starship. So it becomes this whole like race to try and get the right combination and then grab a target and then call it out, and then the last person then only gets a couple of rolls and get stuck with the last bit.
And all of these games if we've played them, we happened to play this one because it was just really easy. I think we played it in an airport, and it was just like something that we could grab. It's fairly light.
It's very light.
But all of the games that we're talking about, of course, we will try and cover in more detail. We've only played them generally once or twice, because GenCon was only last weekend.
Well, it's quite light, but I found that the real-time element really added that, almost like that anxiety of when you're playing an arcade and you're like, so that was an interesting experience.
And this one is a game called Sky Team. Now, this was kind of on my radar. Like, I knew it was coming out at GenCon. I didn't realize how much everybody would be so
lot of hype about
excited about this.
Yeah.
And of course, the reason why I brushed over it to begin with is because it's a co-op.
It's like co-op.
Yeah, and two-player co-op, we're like, are we ever going to sit down and play a co-op together where we have to, not...
Again... Yeah, it's like we ended up succumbing to the FOMO. Or you ended up succumbing to the FOMO.
I did.
Let's just try it.
I know, because this was a game that had a line every morning.
It did.
And they had limited copies of it. And by the end of the con, I was like, there's so much hype around this game. I actually just really want to try it and talk about it on the channel so that we can give you our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
And they actually offered us a review copy of one of their final copies that they had put away. And I was like, you know what? I would love to try it.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that we did. We will talk about this in more detail, but Maggie and I started playing it in the airport, which is very thematic.
It was very thematic.
Because
also,
you're trying
it gave me a little bit of
land
anxiety because you're trying to land the plane and all the things that can go wrong. I'm hoping that the actual pilots of the plane that we're about to board are not playing dice trying to get the brakes working.
Yeah.
I hope that there's better systems than just like this.
Yeah, because basically it's dice worker placement, dice placement in order to achieve different things, but there's limited communication, so you're only allowed to communicate before you start. Then once you roll die and your dice and you're starting to place them out, then you can't talk to each other at all, so you're trying to second guess, you're trying to give them information if you can about like the things that you need to play early. That
is a very clever implementation, and it's also very clever in the way that it created the table presence of all the different levers and the how you're keeping the plane aligned. We've
only played a couple of intro rounds of this because it gets harder and harder as you might expect. But we'll talk about this more on the channel. So that is Sky Team.
Should I go over here?
Yeah, sure.
So we got Great Western Trail New Zealand. Obviously have not played it.
Yes.
This is the third in the trilogy of Great Western Trail 2nd Edition, Argentina, which we've played, and now New Zealand.
Yeah, so I have been intrigued by this from a mechanics perspective. Initially, I was intrigued from a theme perspective because I'm from New Zealand, so I was like, yes, finally, like we're going to feature New Zealand. I'm still a bit unsure about how New Zealand-esque it actually feels.
I mean, it's all sheep, like sort of
There's sheep in
sheep
it.
Shearing and sheep
sure.
sheep farm or sheep. What would you say? It's like, is it sheep farmers or so instead of cows? I believe it's mostly sheep. There might be cows as well.
Yeah. So anyway, the sheep add a different element to it.
Yeah.
The top of the board kind of encompasses like the rails to the north type expansion at the top, where you're delivering to different islands. I'm intrigued to see how it compares to Great Western Trail Argentina, which is a game I really enjoyed. It's quite a step up, I think, from the base game in terms of complexity. And I'm still unsure about whether we need to own both, but I'm looking forward to comparing this to Argentina and the base, just to see how it compares mechanically and what it brings in, what those sheep bring.
So we shall see.
We shall see. Yeah.
Kinghill, that's all you.
Yep, so Kinghill is a game that I had seen on Alex's channel, so Board Game Co. And it was crowdfunded, and so it had my attention, of course. But Kinghill is a 2-player worker placement game. And this was, there was not a lot of hype around this game, but I saw that they were going to have copies at GenCon, and it was part of like the independent publishers booth, and I was like, you know what, I love kind of supporting these more indie style projects, and this one seemed right up our alley, of course, being a 2-player worker placement game, and it looks like quite a substantial Euro experience with card drafting, and I don't know, I don't know that much about it, aside from that it sounded like it would be...
I see cubes and resources.
Exactly.
So, that's usually a good sign.
Yeah, so I went and picked up a copy of this, and I purchased this on day one. I do think they ended up selling out of it, and I don't know how easily you can find it, but yeah, I'm keen to check that out. Yeah. Another game, this was the second place that I went on day one.
Yeah, Wild Tiled West.
Wild Tiled West, and this wasn't on our most anticipated game list, but it was on a lot of other people's, and again, just, I am as susceptible to the hype as everybody else. I watched...
If not more so.
Maybe. But I watched a lot of lists, and this was on a lot of people's lists, and I was like, okay, polyomino tiles... I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
And
it looks really cool. The artwork,
Actually, let's talk about this one at the same time. Because they're both two games that came out at Gen Con that weren't on our list. They're both polyomino tile laying, and we really enjoy polyomino tile laying. It's, it's always great.
Yeah.
This one... I believe you're building on like your own style map. This one is interesting because it has like physical wonders of the world. So just super intrigued to try these. I thought this one would sell out, but they had so many copies. But I, picked it up on day one where there was quite a line for it. So there's definitely a lot of, I think it's the same designer as the designer of Clank.
Okay.
That's what made me intrigued by it as well.
Is there any deck building in this one? Because I love deck building. Doesn't look like
there are cards,
but it does look like the polyomino component is
I don't know that much about either of them, but I'm excited that we have copies.
So World Wonders. Is there anything
something in here?
I'm not sure if there is. Just a quick
check. Quick check.
No, looks like it's just World of Wonders.
Lots of boards,
World
lots
Wonders.
of tiles.
Oh, no.
Wild Tiled West was also one that just had lots in the box because of all those tiles.
This looks familiar. This aesthetic looks familiar.
How could I not buy this one? I
Zertz.
haven't come across this this game in the series, as if anyone who watches the channel knows that I love abstracts.
Seen that, like that sort of blue box.
And it has, what's really cool about this game, even though the insert made it, I couldn't bear to part with the insert. It takes up like a stupid amount of space, but because I kind of collect them, I didn't want to get rid of this one. But this one has these very satisfying clanky marble balls in here.
They always have cool components.
As well as these tiles that I believe the balls sit upon. So, abstract game is probably just going to be 2-player, head-to-head, as I love.
I'll play it once with you, and then you'll have to find someone else, unless I love it, which, has happened. But it's rare.
Very rare.
So that's Zertz.
I want to talk about this one, Aegean Sea, because here's how ridiculous I am. This is where I sent Maggie first. Sent Maggie on her... on day one.
My adventure.
Errands.
My booth adventure.
Maggie's notes, please go and buy this. We bought this game, which is by Carl Chudik, who is the designer of Innovation.
Yes.
Who is the designer of Glory to Rome.
Yes.
And Aegean Sea is another game where it's using cards in multiple ways, so multi-use cards, which he is just like the master of.
Yeah.
Almost like an excessive amount of uses of the cards in the games.
It's like, do we need to stretch with these many uses? I mean, it's cool and
Could we not include just another component instead of just the cards?
This becomes part of the charm of the game.
Yeah, except for this one is in a much bigger box, but the ridiculousness of this, and I'm ashamed to admit it, I backed this game. So I follow, I
don't think I remember this. Yeah. Yes.
I follow his games, and I did back this. And so we have a copy coming in the mail, but then I heard it was going to be at Gen Con, and I wanted to get it early. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
I don't know why I'm like this.
So does that mean that we get to sell the, shrink-wrapped copy that's going to come in the mail?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Or gift it?
Well, we can't have 2 copies, but I just want to get stuck into it straight away. We probably won't even get time to play it, but
anything else in it? I just can't remember. I feel like this one was pretty tightly packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and this was really satisfying. It actually comes with like a little I don't know if you can kind of see the shimmer in there. There's like a plastic cover that just keeps everything in place. So that's pretty cool. I really like the artwork. I like the colors that are being used in this. And,
a few more to get through.
All right.
Oh, we're almost there, I promise. This is always like, let's just do a quick unboxing video.
Do it. What's the next one?
Thrive is a game that I don't know much about. This one, again, is by Adam's Apple. They gave this to us as a review copy. It is an abstract game that is very chess-like, but the difference is that you're building up the abilities of how your pieces can move by putting these little pegs into these little holders. Super interesting the way...
It's kind of like recreating... I'll just help you there. It's kind of recreating the little seeds in this. I can't remember what this... what that plant is that a plant or a flower is called. So it's kind of like the seeds
lotus?
That go in. Is it a lotus?
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know nature.
But there's these little pieces that have holes in them for these pegs, and that's going to dictate how you can move it. Again, extremely abstract.
Yeah.
But
it almost reminded me a little bit of like Shobu, where it's like by putting things in different places that allows you to move your pieces in different ways. So that was another one.
Another one that I'll talk about briefly is Waffle Time. AEG every year at GenCon do quite a lot of engaging with the content creator community. They provided this to us as a review copy. It is basically a puzzle game where you're putting on top of waffles fruit and cream and trying to do that in optimal combinations. So intrigued to try that out. It does seem a little light. But then also there's a game inside here that is Agree to Disagree. And this one is really interesting. It's a party game where you are trying to, I think, guess who around the table is going to agree with you on a particular topic. But the way that you work out whether they're going to agree with you or not is through this really innovative combination of puzzle pieces, where these puzzle pieces only click together correctly in one way. So if you disagree with each other, they're not going to seal correctly. But if you agree with each other, I don't know how to do this so that they agree. I think
no, try the other way.
No. There. So if they seal together, it means that you both agree. And so you're picking someone around the table based on how they've placed their puzzle piece, and then you're sliding it together to see if you are in fact correct. And so I think that will lead to those moments of, oh, of course you would think this.
Yeah.
And then you connect it and you're like, what? You know, that style of
I think that's kind of fun because like you don't
game.
Know until you click it, and then like that's the reveal. That's the whole, reveal. Like core gimmick of the thing.
4 more games to go.
Okay, so this one,
quickly,
Reign of Dragoness.
This is one that I was just intrigued by because Grandpa Beck actually had a booth there.
Yeah.
They're a publisher that is probably most famous for Skull King. Skull King, a trick-taking game.
Cover your assets. And those sort of
cover
games.
your assets. Yeah. They do a lot of distribution on Amazon, a lot of small card games, but this one intrigued me because it's a shedding game. And Maggie and I have been getting a lot into card shedding, climbing style games, which is why we also picked up Velomino, which I was intrigued by because it was a Bruno Cathala game, and it's about you're shedding cards out of your hand. You're trying to get rid of all the cards out of your hand, of course, but it is a bike racing theme, and so you're trying to time when you pull ahead is the idea of it. But what's interesting about this is Maggie and I were meeting up with the Joey fam to play some games at GenCon, and we thought this would be a great one to play because it plays, up to 5 people.
And it seemed pretty straightforward in terms of the rules.
And then we read the rules and we were like, we couldn't quite understand the strategy.
It all kind of seemed like it all made sense, but then it was like, oh, you want to hold on to these ones and not play them too soon. It's because you're essentially just like outbidding other people.
Yeah.
And this whole thing of like, oh, you kind of want to hold on to them to let other people kind of waste their cards, and then you play your highest. Yeah. And I still can't figure out, well, why wouldn't you just play that if that's going to be your highest?
If you've played this game and you understand how the strategy works, please drop a comment below.
Why wouldn't you just play your highest possible combination from the start?
I understand that if you want to take the lead because then you get to shed next, but I still don't know why you wouldn't just do that immediately. So, and other people are confused about that on BGG. Anyway, I think we just need to play it and feel how the rule set comes to life.
Yes.
2 more to go.
All right. Oh, this feels heavy. I think there's other things in it. Lost Ruins of
Arnak.
The Missing Expedition. And it's signed. We
met the designers.
Were there. Really lovely people.
You know, Lost Ruins of Arnak was their first design.
Yeah.
How incredible is
hitting
that?
It out of the park.
It's just like absolutely nailed it. I don't know where you go from there because you just made this fantastic
home.
Yeah.
Just like you've done it. You've won at life. You won
at
designing life.
Done the design thing. But this was really cool because unfortunately we couldn't get a copy of this because it's sold out. But we still wanted to go and meet the designers, and they were there each day. So we went and met them, and they were just so lovely.
Yeah.
And they had watched the channel, which was, you know, just really nice.
It's always such a surprise. And so
they had watched the channel, and they were like, yeah, it's sold out, but we have one copy that we secretly tucked away, and we're able to give away one copy, and like, we love your channel and we wanted you to have a copy, and then they signed it for us. And so that was just such a lovely... It was just really lovely experience.
I love Lost Ruins of Arnak, so I'm really excited to check out the this expansion. I played part of the solo campaign before it was actually even released. So when it was just kind of online.
Because this has a campaign as part of it, and I'm excited. Hopefully we can play along of that together. Maggie just doesn't solo that. There's some other games in here.
More things.
Yeah, so Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza is a game that I love and I'm always talking about on the channel.
I feel like our house is 70% Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza copies everywhere.
But what's funny is that people know now that I love this game, so when they see copies of it around the world, often I'll get a message that's like, do you have this one? And in this case, I believe Monica, one of our Joeys, was at Origins and spotted the new 8-bit edition and the Easter edition and asked if I had those, which I didn't, and kindly picked them up for me. So thank you so much, Monica. They are going in the collection.
They had a booth there as well,
yes.
So you got to see your get to stalk again your favorite designer.
Who knows who I am?
Yeah.
And again, not because of the channel, just
or
because...
the restraining order against you. You know, it's what.
Just kidding. Yeah.
You had your photo.
Gonna have a photo again.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
He's super lovely as well.
Super lovely.
Yeah. Final game.
And the final game.
Finally. Eila and something. Eila. And something shiny.
I think it's Eila.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Eila, how you pronounce it, and something shiny. This one I was very, very excited for because it is a solo narrative campaign with really beautiful artwork. So, and apparently there's a lot, like in terms of the core mechanics, there's a lot of like resource managing along the way. So I'm very, very keen. Apparently the story is actually quite... kind of serious, like it's like this treating
darker
some
than
dark,
what the artwork would suggest.
Treating some darker or more serious kind of dramatic subjects. So that'll be a really interesting one. I love the artwork and the cards by the looks of it. So I'm just super keen. So I don't know if you can see some of it there. Super keen to get into this. So again, another really big.
Also, it sounds like you can get through the entire adventure or campaign in
multiple times,
but like you can get through it once in only a few sessions. I think it's like 4 or 5
I can't remember how many sessions, but it's like 30 to 45 minutes per chapter, and I think it might be like between 5 or 8
I think it's
chapters.
5, but then
I hear that it gets really, really hard towards the end, and to the point where people like get like just so angry at it because it's like, this is impossible. So it'll be interesting to see. But like a lot of times, like people apparently like go through it multiple times.
Yeah, go through it multiple times because there's branching storylines. So next time you can make a different decision and then go and play. And Maggie, I actually am intrigued by that. It does play co-op at 2 players, but I feel like this is going to be one that like after I've gone to bed, Maggie is like up late night playing solo. So that's it for GenCon.
That's it. The great inky one.
For GenCon. This is a long video, so thank you for watching if you stayed all the way through. We actually now only have not many weeks before we head off to Europe because we are making the journey to Essen this year.
First time ever.
Yeah, which means we have very few weeks to actually get these played. So if you have any preferences for the games that you'd like to hear about our opinions of before we go away again, we'd love to try and get as many of them played.
Can't make any promises, but it'll definitely
call it out in the comments
what we try and prioritize. So call it out in the comments.
They might not all get standalone reviews, but we'll certainly try to put a few of them in like a 10 out of 10 or something to give you our thoughts on how they play.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll be back with more board game content soon. But otherwise, bye for now.
Bye.